in listen-only mode.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining today's session. We're really excited to have you with us today. We're going to be talking with some folks from the Wadsworth City Schools, going through and speaking with them about how they use Cisco Meraki and any challenges that they were facing that our gear helped them eradicate. So Phil and John, are you guys on the line?
We're here.
Fantastic. So let's go ahead then and get started. So my name is Emily. I'm a product marketing manager here at Cisco. This is the agenda for today. What we'll do is give a brief introduction to Meraki, brief introduction to cloud networking for those of you who may not be familiar with the concept or familiar with our products. And then pretty quickly, we're going to dive into the meat of the webinar, which is the case study with Wadsworth City School. We're going to do a live demo of the Cisco Meraki network. So you'll see our live production network. I'm hoping to spend quite a bit of time there as well. And during the session, if you have any questions that you want to ask either of me or of Phil or John, definitely reach out. There's a Q&A box or Q&A tool that you can use in your control panel for GoToWebinar. Please submit your questions there. My good friend and colleague Jackie is with us today. She's here to answer any and all questions that you might have. And she'll be writing those up on a board, so we'll be asking them and sharing the answers with the audience. So really relying on you guys to ask good questions. So without further ado, a little bit of house cleaning. We do have free access points for the qualified IT professionals on today's call. So 100% free, yours to keep and use as you wish. We'll throw in a 3-year cloud management license with it as well, so it'll be fully operational. Basically, great way to get your hands on our gear, check out our dashboard, see how easy it is to set up our access points. So if you have any questions about eligibility, definitely check out the URL down there at the bottom of your screen. That's meraki.cisco.com/freeap. And we are going to encourage you to confirm your shipping information by giving us a call after this session. So in your inbox, or check your spam folders perhaps, but in your inbox should be a reminder email about today's webinar, and in that email will be contact information for your Cisco Meraki rep, and that's who you want to call to confirm your shipping information. So without further ado, for those who may be unfamiliar with us, Meraki as a company was founded in 2006 by a research team from MIT. Now, while at MIT, they were working on a project called the RoofNet project, and it was called that because they were literally climbing on top of apartment building rooftops in Cambridge, Massachusetts, affixing wireless access points to them, and trying to manage those over the internet. So we have been cloud-based since day one. We've, of course, branched out now. We have 4 product lines, so wireless access points, switches, security appliances, as well as 100% free mobile device management for iOS, Androids, Macs, and PCs. And Cisco saw this and said, "This looks awesome. We're gonna buy you guys." So they acquired us at the end of 2012. We're really excited. We now form the new cloud networking group at Cisco, and we are committed to all 4 of the product lines that I just mentioned. So we've been seeing spectacular growth, over 100% year over year. We are the leader in cloud managed networking, and we are just steamrolling ahead, innovating and researching and building out those 4 product lines. So we have several clients in the K-12 space. It's one of our strongest verticals. That said, we do span many different verticals and many different sizes of organizations. So you'll find us in everything from construction, manufacturing, to professional services, retail, healthcare, some financial clients, and of course strong education, K-12 in that vertical as well. And so we're not necessarily just designed for one size school or one size client or the other. We have some clients that have just a handful of equipment from us, and we have clients that have huge networks with tens of thousands of pieces of Meraki equipment. In fact, the largest wireless cloud managed networking client that we have that I'm aware of is for Motel 6. They run our access points. They are a network of about 10,000 APs spread across 620 locations. They got that network up and running in under 6 months. So just to sort of give you a sense for how big we can grow, or how small. That's one of the benefits of being cloud-based. So great segue into why you might want to consider cloud networking. It's a question we often get when we're introducing Cisco Meraki gear. Now, the reason why you should consider cloud networking, sort of, there's many different reasons, but the bucket list is right here. So you want to think about manageability, scalability, and cost savings. Now, when we're talking about manageability, what you're going to see when we get into the demo, and perhaps when we're talking to Phil and John, is you have this amazing end-to-end visibility and control of your network. You can literally, because we are cloud managed, you can literally log in from anywhere in the world that you have internet access, from any internet accessible device, whether it's a mobile phone or a tablet or a laptop, and access your network, drill down, make configuration changes, make edits, propagate those, check the health and status, do remote troubleshooting, all of that. You can skip and jump from one network to another, drill down into an individual device, see the clients connecting to that device. So a lot of great manageability, or visibility, I should say, and control. Also, because we're cloud managed, you have things like true zero-touch configuration. So you can pre-configure all of your Cisco Meraki equipment before it's ever been plugged into power, before it's ever been plugged into the internet, and it will grab its configuration settings from the cloud once it is plugged in and run with those. So literally, while your gear is being drop shipped at a location, you can get it all ready to go. So it just needs to be plugged in. And then we've got things too like seamless updates. You just schedule an update. You don't have to manually download and install anything or pre-stage anything. In terms of scalability, we touched on that. We can grow and shrink with your needs. The cloud is sort of limitlessly scalable. You're not going to have um, the limits that you would have with a traditional architecture. So things like needing to buy a wireless LAN controller, or needing to buy redundant wireless LAN controllers, or having AP limits. We don't have any of that. We've pushed all of the control out into the cloud, so we are pretty much infinitely scalable. In terms of cost savings, again, you don't have to buy any of this redundant controller hardware. You'll find that you're spending less time traveling to remote sites because you can manage them so easily from your armchair. And you'll also find that you're not going to spend a lot of time necessarily training your IT staff. It's very easy to get up and running quickly. Our interface is very intuitive. So, high-level overview of what this looks like. Essentially, our equipment, whether it's an access point, a switch, a security appliance, it's going to reside on premise at your school, your headquarters, your branch schools or locations that you have. And the equipment is going to initiate secure, encrypted connections back to our cloud. And by cloud, I mean our data centers that are spread out all over the world. Now, it's a secure connection. It's encrypted twice, first with proprietary encryption and then again using SSL. And it's a small connection, so it averages about 1 kilobit per second per device. And that's because we're using an out-of-band cloud management architecture. So that connection is literally just giving us the management and monitoring statistics that we need to present the information to you that you're going to see in the dashboard, and also to allow you to make configuration changes to your equipment. End user data, we don't see and we don't store ever in our cloud. That goes wherever it was intended to go. So what we've got here is actually really scalable, reliable, and secure architecture. In terms of cloud security, we get a lot of questions about that. We have basically data centers that are SSAE 16, I think formerly SAS 70 certified. We ourselves are PCI Level 1 compliant. We have customers that have built PCI and HIPAA compliant networks using our gear. Data centers undergo daily penetration testing. We've got a high uptime service level agreement with them, so 99.99% uptime SLA. And if you have any questions, I highly, highly encourage you to check out the URL at the bottom of your screen. It's meraki.cisco.com/trust. We try to be as open and transparent as possible. There is a ton of information about our data centers, our security policies, our certifications, things like that up there. It's really, really great. And of course, obviously, if you have any questions, definitely reach out to Jackie right now through the Q&A, and we can perhaps get to those at the end or during the session. All right, so that's the intro. So now we've come to the meat of the session. Phil and John, do you guys mind introducing yourselves and telling us a little bit about your role at Wadsworth City Schools?
I'd be happy to. Phil Luthman, Technology Supervisor, Wadsworth City Schools, and with me is John Strong, our Technology Integrator with Technology Engineering Group.
Hello.
Hi, great.
And
Oh, go ahead.
we're just thrilled to be able to talk about how our project has been and give you some insight in how it went. So,
Fantastic. Thank you. So a little bit of introduction. Can you maybe explain for the folks on the line, what your school district looks like? Perhaps give us a sense for what your previous architecture looked like and the challenges that was posing to you, why you were looking for a network refresh?
absolutely. We've got 9 buildings in our school district spread across our small city of Wadsworth. And by no means are we on just all one big central campus. So it is, when we need to support another building, we drive there. And our network architecture, as it was before last summer, was outdated switches, no power over Ethernet, no wireless presence in 6 of the 9 buildings, and
Mm-hmm.
sometimes just to scrape by, a teacher or someone else would bring in a consumer grade Linksys router and try to make wireless work in their classroom, but no real presence of any solution whatsoever in 6 of the 9 buildings. And that posed a significant problem to our administration, saying we want to have wireless programs and bring your own device, and so many other initiatives that depend on a modern network and a
Mm-hmm.
wireless infrastructure, and we had neither. So that was a fairly daunting task for us to take on.
So, and you guys, you don't have do you have a very large IT team or is it a pretty small
No, there's
team?
there's myself and 3 full-time technicians, and so
Okay.
there are 4 of us supporting the 5,000 students, 500 staff, and the 9 buildings, and that's everything from fixing PC hardware to installing a VM server to
Mm-hmm.
troubleshooting a network architecture problem, installing a switch, making a cable, and everything in between. But I know that some of our network problems that we had before were just very frustrating for some of our teachers. The connectivity was slow. We had some
Mm-hmm.
problems in printing, communication between buildings.
Mm-hmm.
Teachers wanted to to have their mobile devices in, and the stuff that they had brought in previously just wasn't working. So there definitely needed to be a change, and that actually involved multiple stages. And really, what we needed was a plan. We needed a plan to do a network redesign, which was
Mm-hmm.
technology engineering group's whole design they came up with to move us from a completely flat uh, architecture to a routed, segmented architecture. And that
Mm-hmm.
was really the crux. We had to do that first to set the stage for the new hardware.
Okay. Interesting. So you were really modernizing a whole slew of things, it sounds like.
Absolutely.
Um, so when you were going through and you were evaluating different vendors and different solutions, um, were there were there any reservations that you had about Meraki equipment initially that kind of got cleared up through an eval or once you actually had the gear installed?
Yeah, we actually wanted to, if we were going to actually go with any vendor, which we looked at many, we
Mm-hmm.
needed to see it in action in production. That was a requirement of mine, not just to have one test unit for a week, but I actually needed to see it across all of our uh, all of our services that we have deployed in our switching network. And so
Mm-hmm.
Meraki actually sent me multiple units that we installed into one of our IDFs here at the high school, and we threw everything
Mm-hmm.
at it. We have a IP paging solution. We have a voice over IP telephony solution. Our
Mm-hmm.
um, poorly functioning old access points, our PCs, our access control, everything went through it. And so we plugged it all in varying degrees into the Meraki switches to see if it would work. And it actually performed amazingly well. We actually worked through a couple of hiccups with our systems, and Meraki's support was unbelievable to help us through that.
Hmm.
And then once we saw that everything would work flawlessly because we had the hardware in front of us and it was working with our systems, that really removed any reservation that I had at that time because there wasn't any guessing anymore. We knew that
Hmm.
we knew the hardware that we were going to acquire, and we knew it would work because we'd already put it in and tested it.
Okay, great. So you were basically running real live tests of different vendors' equipment to see what worked best. Sounds like.
Absolutely.
Sweet. Okay, so why Cisco Meraki? So these are some of the bullet points that we always typically find with customers, and people who've actually tested out our gear. And we touched a little bit about on these topics in the introduction. I was just wondering if you have any thoughts here that you want to share, or if there's any particular use cases where, or I guess actually here's a great question. How long did it take you to deploy your Cisco Meraki equipment, and what exactly do you have deployed where?
Well, how long it took to deploy the 85 switches and 276 access points was done in about a month and a half over a summer,
Okay.
which
Wow.
was amazing to me, along with the complete network redesign at the same time. We
Mm-hmm.
actually developed a plan so that we not only replaced all of these switches and reconfigured the entire network as we went along, but we did it in a way that provided no downtime for any of the buildings. We just sort of rolled through building by building and rolled out this new segmented, routed network architecture along with the new hardware. And there was no downtime. But it was a busy summer last summer, to say the least. But it was achievable because, I mean, just configuring it, you plug in a switch from ground up, it pulls DHCP, and then say, hey, I want to copy the config from the dashboard that I already have in this one switch to this new switch, and then done. That
Great.
was amazing,
That's
amazingly
awesome.
fast.
So we get a couple questions from the audience, and one of the common ones this is a common question I think we get often, but someone wants to know which model access points are you using, and how many are deployed per classroom?
We chose the MR16 dual
Hmm.
radio and then the MR24 for the larger areas. And
Okay.
we didn't go with an access point in every single classroom. It was really almost in every other, I would say.
Okay.
And
So I think
it depended on the academic areas that we were trying to service.
okay. Great. I guess the corollary to that question is do you have a rough estimate for how many clients per AP you're servicing?
When I go in and look on a weekly basis at the metrics, we're seeing
Hmm.
around 1,100 student devices at our high school per week. And
Wow.
by AP in a classroom, we're not maxing out more than 25 to 30, I would say, per
Okay.
AP.
Okay.
I've not seen more than that on any given access point that I've looked at.
Okay. Great. Thank you.
Right.
So let's talk about your BYOD pilot. I know you had mentioned before you were interested in figuring out a way to kind of help manage people bringing in their own devices. It's something many schools are working with, BYOD and one-to-one initiatives. So could you speak a little bit more about this?
Absolutely. It was part of our core district administration's technology plan, a multi-year plan to institute a bring your own device policy in our school district. And so this was thought through years in the making, and it really came to fruition with this project. We needed to come up with a solution not only that would provide seamless wireless for a mass amount of people. We have 1,500 students in our high school, and the facility is large. We have community events, sporting
Hmm.
events. So how do we have stable, fast wireless in a way that allows me and my team to easily manage and control that? And so we needed to find a solution for that because I know that the core district admin wanted this pilot to go through. And
Hmm.
so our summer project was successful, and then we developed, working with building administration, the bring your own device policies, and talking with the students of what they could and could not do,
Mm-hmm.
empowering the teachers to know what zones were appropriate for mobile devices and which weren't, and we worked all that stuff out. And then once it was rolled out, there was just a large amount of students bringing in devices. It was actually really neat to see. On our cutover day, we had close to 800 the very first day.
Oh,
Students
nice.
bringing in laptops and smartphones and Chromebooks, and
Mm-hmm.
they all connected with. I had not one problem, which was astounding to me. I expected some hiccup, and there wasn't one. So that was really a big push of us, not just to have students bring devices in, but then also the second half of that, the other 50% of the project really was to allow them to do Google Apps for Education, which we also just rolled out this
Mm-hmm.
school year as well. So not just to have student devices in and they're connected and they're online, but now what do they do with them?
Mm-hmm.
That's the real trick. And I
Mm-hmm.
think that Google Apps offers us a great solution to allow students to interact, create, turn in work, you name it. So the two really go hand in hand, not just having devices, but devices for a purpose, and to really allow them to do their classwork and participate.
Great. Great, great, great. So systems manager, this is a great segue into systems manager as well. So um, for those who may not be familiar and who are listening in, and you'll see this a little bit in the demo, but our access points come obviously with a ton of features and visibility that really work well if you are in a BYOD environment. You're getting visibility into the clients and the applications they're consuming, and you can do things like apply group policies automatically by device type. And I think some of that probably plays into the BYOD solution Phil was just talking about. But we also have Systems Manager, which is totally free. There's no catch. It supports iOS, Androids, Macs, and PCs, and basically lets you manage your mobile devices. So control applications, enable or disable certain security features, and et cetera, et cetera. And so, Phil, I was just wondering if you could tell us a little bit about how you got started with this and what you're using it for.
Absolutely. System Manager has been so transformational for our technology department here. It is. We could talk for a while about this. I'll try to be brief. But I remember the very first time, John, who's with me, he set me up with an account with our dashboard, and he had just created it. And he said, I want you to go into this dashboard and check it out, and check out Systems Manager. I was like, all right. And so I installed the Systems Manager MSI onto one computer here in the district, and I went home. I had my laptop, and I logged into the dashboard, and I could see all kinds of metrics about the system I installed it on, and I'm like, which we'll talk about for sure. And I couldn't believe what I could see. And then I clicked on remote, and then I was looking at the PC screen, even though I had no VPN connection. I just connected to the Meraki cloud, and I was controlling the PC that I connected to, and I couldn't believe it. I remember I emailed my team late at night when I was standing in my kitchen trialing this, and I said, "You will not believe what I have just seen. I will show you in the morning." And I showed them all, and they all were beside themselves with because they could see it, the
Mm-hmm.
implications of how we can support so many people. When a teacher has a problem with her interactive whiteboard, if a teacher has a problem with his PC, anything, we can immediately be there without having to drive across town and solve the majority of problems remotely, which has been an enormous time saver. Um, but something else I want to add is tied to System Manager, but it's a little bit dovetailing on the BYOD initiative that we had, is that John came up with an ingenious way to tie the student devices that we let into the network with a method of authentication. I just want him to explain a little bit about how it worked, because it's unbelievable, and how it helps us to manage and keep building administration informed on how the BYOD program is going. So
Yeah, so
Great.
basically one of the objectives for the BYOD was that we didn't want to have to care about the actual end device per se. So many systems require you to authenticate by a MAC address or have control over the hardware. We kind of looked at it from an opposite perspective, and that was we wanted to know about the student, and we didn't really care what device they brought in. So with the Meraki system, it makes that very easy. On Go Day, like Phil said, we had 800 devices just show up and get on the network, but yet we could account for every user that was on the network because of radius authentication with the student login and password. So it doesn't matter if they're on their iPhone or if they're on the Chromebook, whatever it is, we know who's on the network and what device they're using, and then we can obviously use the tools to find out where they're going. And using Active Directory and a network access policy, we could then, by user group, student or faculty or whatever it is, we could steer them to a specific SSID, which then correlates to a set of filters that are run by the ITC to control what they have access to from a content perspective. And we can treat each group as a separate filter then. And it worked very well.
The way that we saw it is we go into the client list for our high school network. You could type in any username, and it would find the device that that student brought that day immediately. It was amazing to see, and that was a requirement given to me by our core administration. They said we need to know what student is bringing in what device on any given day, and I said this solution can do it. So that ties in a bit to systems manager and the visibility that we see. But
Yeah,
I have
that's
more.
great.
I have more if I can add to systems manager.
Sure.
Briefly, real fast, is
Okay.
some of the other things we do with systems manager. We will troubleshoot connectivity to a device. You can run stuff as if you're sitting in front of it from command line, all from the web interface. Systems Manager provides me incredible peace of mind. I oversee all the servers here as well. And so I tagged all of our servers in Systems Manager to a server group. And then I set up an alert to the server tag saying, if any devices in this tag are unavailable for 5 minutes, let me know. And so I'm notified the moment a server is down for any reason. It gives me so much amazing and useful feedback. Systems Manager is really valuable.
Oh, I'm so glad you're having such a great experience. It's fabulous. And I know I feel like we could talk about any of these product lines all day. And in fact, for those of you who are frustrated that we're not diving in deeper, we do have webinars devoted exclusively to, say, Systems Manager or the switches or the APs. So definitely check those out. I think what I want to do in the interest of time is actually, let's see what we have. Maybe move on a little bit so that we can get to the demo, because I think especially for folks who've never seen Meraki equipment, you don't necessarily get a chance to, I think once you see it, it basically sells itself. So just to kind of wrap up sort of the overview for you, Phil and John, the network results, it seems like you've got a strong BYOD program in place. You're not necessarily concerned about the device. One thing that we'll touch on too in the demo is the traffic shaping, so being able to let folks only have certain amount of bandwidth for certain applications. You have different SSIDs. Do you guys have any guest SSIDs at all, out of curiosity?
We do. We have an open SSID without a password, and it's only active before school and after school and on the weekends. We're able to schedule that to come in and out of existence automatically, and we have it throttled down so that any of our community members, any participants or spectators in a sporting event, they can all get online at all of our buildings that way.
Okay, great. So future plans for you guys? Seems like you're enjoying the Meraki equipment. Gonna experiment a little bit more?
Yes, we have with the state of Ohio, their online testing is coming for us next year, and so next school year, and so a lot of our devices are going to be wireless that are taking those tests, and so we're looking at plans to potentially temporarily throttle or collapse other SSIDs in the building and just turn up one SSID for online testing to preserve maximum bandwidth to the internet just for those testing applications. So we have the ability to do that easily and continue to roll out Google and all of our other buildings as well. So
fantastic, awesome. Thank you. So we're getting a bunch of questions in from the audience, and what I want to do while I switch over to the live demo, I'm just going to pepper you with questions.
that's fine.
So one of the questions that came in are access points deployed on every floor?
Yes, absolutely. And they
Okay.
actually were they were planned out strategically to have signal permeate between the floors too. So we looked at all of the floors that we deployed to.
Great. Another question is approximately how much bandwidth do you have coming into your schools? I guess your uplinks,
We
WAN
are
links.
very fortunate. Our information technology center that provides our internet has a greater than 1 gigabit per second connection to the internet, and we have dark fiber to them. And
Mm-hmm.
so under full load, every client could still have 150 to 200 megabit down, and under no load in the morning or late at night, it's around 500 or 600. So we have a very good connection to the internet.
Okay, great. And then a question I think that I'll take is what happens if the dashboard goes down or your connection is lost? It's a good question and we get it often. Essentially what happens is your network will continue to function with its last known configuration should your WAN link go down. So if you are doing things like broadcasting SSIDs, you have firewall or traffic shaping rules in place, you're authenticating to any local authentication servers, things like that will still work and be in play, but you won't be able to, of course, open up a web browser, go to dashboard.meraki.com like I just did, log in, and make tweaks and configuration changes to your network. The caveat is that if you are unable to access the internet because you have blown yourself up through misconfiguration, all of our equipment has a special sort of local config page. You go to a special URL in your dashboard, for example, on the wireless side. If you're directly connected to or directly downstream of Meraki equipment, you can access these specific pages. There's a lot of useful information, and you can reconfigure your uplink there, change IPs, set VLANs, things like that. And I can't log in here because I'm not a full admin, but I'll be prompted for credentials, but that's how that works.
And
Okay, so without further, oh yeah, go ahead.
I could chime in and say that's happened once with us, where the connection to like our ITC went down with the internet. We had no internet connectivity, but all of our switching, all of our systems, all of the wireless, everything continued to function just fine. And so,
Mm-hmm.
and then when our internet was restored, obviously we can get back to the dashboard. But that's absolutely correct. So.
Cool. All right, so let's actually go in and I just want to show folks this because I think a lot of this will gel once you see what this looks like. So what I did, I logged in. I'm sitting in San Francisco at the office, logged in to Meraki's dashboard. So this is our production network. This is all of our networks, all of our gear spread all across the world. You can see it here. Let's see, right away I can get statistics on health and connectivity status of my network. I can see usage. I can see the number of clients, again, over the last week. And what I can do, I can click into any of these icons, drill down and get a little bit more information about where my gear lives. And we're sitting right here at our Mission Bay office. So there's some red. That means that there's a device or two or perhaps more down. That's probably engineering stuff. But I could, if I wanted to, click into our wireless network this way or our switches or our appliance. Or of course, if I'm managing several networks, I can come in and do a search. So I'm going to search for Meraki Corp. Come in this way. And so something that is common across all of our product lines, whether it's a switch, an access point, a security appliance, is a page that looks like this. And this is literally saying, for a given time frame, for a given network, what does my bandwidth consumption look like? What does my application consumption look like? How many clients are connecting to my network? So this is where you get this great visibility into client devices. You can actually come in and let's actually drag this over here. You can come in and we've got a feature that we call client device fingerprinting, and it's built right into all of our equipment. You can come in and do things like say, okay, well, how many iPads are around and how many are connected right now? So we can see out of the nearly 4,000 devices, 35 were iPads connecting to our Meraki Corp network in the last week. I can do things like search for by operating system, even search by operating system version. Perhaps I'm worried about any security threats, perhaps with obsolete operating systems. What else can I do? I can do things like search by manufacturer. So pretty much most of these columns here are searchable. IP address, name of the device, operating system. If you are integrating with an authentication server, of course, you can look for usernames. So you can do that. And essentially what this is letting you do, if you think about it from a BYOD perspective, is very, very quickly drill in, get some information about your client devices. And of course, you could search for a bunch of them if you wanted to, select them all, apply policies to them this way if you'd like. There's various other methods of applying group policies to them. So client device fingerprinting. Similarly, we do application fingerprinting. So you can come in here, see where your bandwidth is going, sort very quickly by usage, see right away which applications are basically hogging your network. And one of the benefits of our being cloud-based is that we've algorithmically classified and tagged hundreds of websites and applications. We're constantly updating this list for you in the background, behind the scenes, so there's nothing that you need to do on your end to get this visibility into these applications or see what's consuming bandwidth on your network. We actually keep abreast of the latest apps, the latest websites coming online, and we'll keep this list up to date for you. And so right away, you can come in and say, okay, well, here's an application, miscellaneous web. What is that? If I click in here, I get a little bit more information about it. Right away, I can see the top consumers of this particular application. You know, this could be Google Video, this could be Netflix. It's just miscellaneous web activity at the moment. But here are my top consumers. And if I scroll down a little bit more, I can actually see the specific destinations, the specific applications being used for websites visited, and the active time spent per client. So right away, I can see where people are spending their time if I'd like. Maybe there's a policy decision to be made there. I could, if I wanted to, click into any single one of these client devices, and this guy, I guess, has not been online for a little while. Let me try another guy. Client device, right away can click in and see that it was last connected wirelessly. It doesn't seem to be online now, but here's the AP that it was connected to. I can get statistics on usage. It doesn't look like he was connected for very long. There's not a lot of data, and this was just for the last day, but maybe he was around for the last week. So yeah, sometime in the last week, this client connected, and then of course I can see details about the time spent using various applications. And right away, if I wanted to, if this were a client that was concerning to me because of some particular type of usage pattern, I could come in right away, block this client, apply a group policy specifically to it, or maybe perhaps apply a group policy based on which SSID the client's connected to. So a lot of flexibility here in terms of applying policies at a client level, or searching in the client's page if you'd like, and sort of manually entering policies there. But you don't have to do that. Like Phil and John were saying, you can tie in to authentication servers, apply policies out by group, and you can also apply policies automatically by device type from our access point. So let me actually just show you how you'd go in and create a policy. And there's many different ways. If you wanted to come in, create a group policy this way, this is probably the easiest way. Here's one that's already created, so let's just click in here. So we have a policy name. If you'd like, with our access points, you can enable a schedule. So have this policy apply at different times during different days of the week. And what do I want to do with this policy? Well, it looks like I'm going to be throttling bandwidth consumption for the client devices that get the policy. It looks like I've got a couple of layer 3 firewall rules here that have been applied. Now, you can set these, but because we have this amazing end-to-end visibility, right, and because we've got this ability to identify applications, what you can do is you can come in and set layer 7 blocking rules if you'd like. So if you want to know, if you know right away that you want to block peer-to-peer traffic or maybe web and photo sharing traffic, you can do that. You can come in, maybe select a specific thing. Perhaps it's just Facebook that's a problem. You want to block all Facebook activity for the users and devices that get this policy. you can do that here. And if you don't want to outright block traffic, you want to actually throttle or prioritize it in some way, that's where traffic shaping comes in. So here you can see we've selected a couple of categories of traffic. It's literally as simple as, you know, I don't know, picking something. You know, you can pick different individual applications too if you'd like. So maybe just Hulu, iTunes, Netflix. So all of these things here are going to be throttled to 250 kilobits per second. So as soon as these packets are hitting the Meraki device in this case, it's not just something that kicks in as a QoS mechanism when your bandwidth is saturated. It actually kicks in right away. This is pretty restrictive group policy, but again, this looks like it's something for sort of BYOD devices that students are bringing. So a lot of useful information here. So once you've got this policy, right, you can go in and, like I said, you can apply it automatically by device type, or you can hook into an authentication server, and I'll show you how to do that. So let's actually go in and look at the wireless side. Now, I'm going to be clicking into a page here. This is where you're going to go in and configure your SSIDs once you've already created them, and they're very, very easy to create. All of our access points support up to 15 unique SSIDs. But once you've got those listed out, you know, you pick your SSIDs, and in this case is our corp network. This is where you're going to come in and say, here's my association requirements. You know, maybe I want to authenticate to a server, or no, actually I want a pre-shared key, or it's a guest network, so I'm going to leave it open. Do I want a splash page? This is also another opportunity for basically using authentication via a splash page if you'd like. You can set up different ways of authenticating here as well, but we were already saying we're going to authenticate with a server. So this is where you'd come in. You'd basically say, here's my server, my secret, the port this is on, and you want to use the filter ID right here. This is how you're going to basically apply group policies to individual groups of users using radius authentication through through our wireless access points. But this is where you could also come in and say, actually, you know, I've got my user groups here that are accounted for through radius, and I can apply policies that way, but maybe I also want to apply certain policies by device type for this SSID. I think you'd probably use one or the other in real life, but just to show you how this works, you know, you can do things like say, all right, all bandwidth or all Androids are going to get sort of block BitTorrent and gaming, and Blackberries, we're gonna block those from, again, our Meraki Corp SSID. You're laughing. We don't want Blackberries. And, you know, iPads, we like iPads, so we'll whitelist those. So you can do things like that. So lots and lots of flexibility. I just want to show you as well how easy it is to set up a guest wireless network here. So we'll use our guest SSID as an example. Usually the way this works is you've got an open SSID, maybe you have a click-through splash page because you want to have some sort of end-user usage agreement or something that someone has to click through. You can, of course, you know, sign on with something like Facebook authentication if you have, your organization has a Facebook page and you want people to log in using real credentials, but you don't want to have to manage it, but maybe you want some aggregate data on your users, you could do this. But literally, what you do is you say, I'm going to put in my SSID in NAT mode, and what that'll do is the access point will then issue out individual isolated Class A IP addresses to the clients that connect. And so they will not be able to talk to each other, and they will not be able to talk to your wired LAN unless you permit it in the firewall settings, but they will be able to get out to the internet. So really easy, in 3 clicks, you can set up wireless, guest wireless networking. So that's the wireless side. There's a whole slew of things here that we could be talking about. Let's see what else might be of interest. I think what I'm going to do is actually switch over to the switch briefly and then try to hit up Systems Manager really quickly so you guys get a little bit of insight into all the devices that Phil and John are using. So with the switches, See how easy it is to transition from my access points to my switches. I can come in, get a list of all the switches in my, again, my Meraki Corp network. So we've got 44 switches here. And here they're all listed. There's a lot of information that I can see. I can do searches based on the way I've tagged my switches, or do searches based on the name of the switch. You know, maybe I want to look for fifth floor switches, so immediately sorting this way. And let's pick, let's pick a switch. I guess it doesn't really matter. We'll just pick this guy. Coming to the switches configuration page, this is where you can come in, get a lot of information about your switch, get a port panel view, see whether or not things like PoE are enabled, whether the switch is online and active. All of our gear, whether it's an access point, a switch, or a security appliance, has a page that's similar to this. You're going to be getting configuration and status information about the device, statistics on its uptime, statistics on what's connected to it at this moment, and most importantly, there'll be a section called Live Tools. So it'll be slightly different depending on the device in terms of the tool, but you can see here for the switch, we've got things like a remote cable test if you want to check the integrity of the cable between a port and the device that it's connected to, ways to sort of reboot individual ports, or check the forwarding table, or check the throughput, or reboot the device, things like that, just making it infinitely easier to remotely troubleshoot and manage your switches. And I should point out that all of our gear comes with a sort of a packet capture tool. So we integrate with Wireshark, we integrate with CloudShark if you'd like to perform packet captures remotely using things like your iPhone, which maybe you don't have Wireshark installed. You can do that and view the results online in CloudShark. So lots and lots of amazing troubleshooting tools right here at your fingertips. But I'll just show you the killer feature of the switch. It's just this one feature, and you'd access it through the switch ports page. So this is, we call this virtual stacking. Essentially, what you can do is you can come to this switch ports page. Now remember, we had 44 switches. That translates into 2004 switch ports. From this page, all my switch ports are listed, regardless of model, regardless of where in the world they live. As long as they're part of this network and they're a switch, the ports listed here, I can do things like search for all the switch ports, maybe from ports 1 through 15. Oops, let me actually get in here. So right away, you're going to see that I've narrowed this down to 640 switch ports across my switching fabric. Maybe I only want to search for trunk ports. So now I'm down to 169 switch ports, and maybe I only want the ports that are connected to MR access points. Boom, in like 5 seconds, I found the 3 switch ports that I'm looking for. I can hit them all, I can hit edit and come in and manage those ports. So that's what I mean by virtual stacking. You can literally dive in, manage groups of switch ports from anywhere in the world, regardless of model, regardless of where they're located, and basically operate on them en masse. So that's wireless and switching in a nutshell. Really quickly, I do want to switch over and look at systems managers. So let's just, I think this is probably a systems manager network. Yes. Don't know if we have anybody connected right now. I don't think it's a very big network, but it gives you a sense for what you would see. Basically, you enroll your iOS, Androids, Macs, and PCs into Systems Manager. There are many, many different ways to do that. Some automated, some not. So it depends on you, how much time you want to spend enrolling devices. But once they're enrolled, they show up here. You've got a lot of the same search functionality that you saw earlier, where here you can come in, find iPads, for example, see if there's any Android devices, so things like that. And from here, you're getting a ton of information about your individual devices. And if you click into, oops, I guess this person removed their profile. If you click into, let's find an iPad actually. If you click into a device, typically what you're going to be seeing is lots more granular detail. So, lots of detail about the device, lots of details about the operating system, how long it's been since it's been online. This might be an old network. Hold on. Let me actually look around and see. Maybe the engineers are more active and try to find somebody who's online. Aha! Here we go. All right. So this iPad looks online. So here we go. a lot more information about what's going on, operating system version, where in the world the device is. So it looks like it's currently in our office. It's been online for quite some time. There's a slew of live tools for this particular device. You can see it looks a little bit different for, say, an OS X or a Windows device, so I can show you that in a minute. But you can come in and do things like configure applications, group the devices, apply security and policy settings to them, features that you can allow or disallow. For example, FaceTime or using the in-device camera or accessing, say, iTunes Store, things like that, setting passcode restrictions, setting templates for wireless and VPN, so making it really easy for devices to auto-enroll in your wireless and VPN networks, and a ton more. So very high level, those are the features that I think Phil and John have been probably working with. What I want to do is actually get into questions. So right now, if you have a question that you haven't asked yet, please ask it. If you want something demoed that hasn't been demoed, please let us know. I'm going to pause for a second, check with Jackie, and we'll get right back to you. Hold on. So I guess a question for you, Phil and John, does each of your students have their own login to access your network, or are they accessing in some other way, accessing via the guest network?
Good question. All of our students have a unique Active Directory account that they use to log into our district PCs. And so they already had a username and a password that was known to them. And so we just had them use that existing username and password as authentication into the student SSID.
Great. So we had another question from John. Is there a command line interface option for the switches? And the answer is no. We do not have any command line interfaces. It's all GUI. Why would you want it?
Yeah, you really wouldn't. I
You
actually
don't need it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm an old Cisco command line guy. It's surprising how fast you don't like it.
You don't want the command line back. Yeah.
You don't need it.
No. Also related to the switches, there was a question about layer 3 and what are the routing capabilities there. So I can say that right now our switches support static routing. For the layer 3 switches, you go in and you set up static routes. That said, and it's public knowledge, but coming very soon, I think we said by the end of Q2, beginning of Q3 of this year, we are targeting to have OSPF version 2 support on our layer 3 switches. So that's a great question. Another question, can I demo how to lock and unlock an iPad? Yes, let's actually go in there and do that. So if you wanted to come in and lock or unlock an iPad using Systems Manager, you can come into your clients page. Perhaps you're just looking for any iPad, or perhaps you have a particular one in mind, depending on how you've tagged your devices or the users associated with them or whatnot. You can come in, what they're named, I guess I should say. You can come in and search for particular iPads. So this guy is online. I'm not sure if this is a marketing iPad. I don't want to actually mess with this in case someone's using it, but literally you would come in here and you would click this button. And it would basically say, do you want to lock the device? Yes. You lock it, and what would show up on your iPad momentarily is basically the lock screen asking for a passcode. So that's how you would do that. That is a great question. Let me just check and see what else we have. I think for you, Phil and John, there was a question. Do you have any sense for what the average bandwidth use is per wireless client? I think you said earlier they have a pretty wide pipe, so.
Good question. On average, the student SSID at the high school between 900 to 1,000 users is averaging around 50 to 70 megabits per second average across the day. So our students will use their mobile devices in some classrooms, and then that teacher may not be using mobile devices in another. for a different period. So it will go up and down. So that's an average of usage that we have.
Okay, great. And let's see what other questions are popping up. Are you using any private applications? Are you deploying any private applications using Systems Manager?
Not at this time. We are using Systems Manager to deploy, obviously, iOS apps and some installation package files for Macs and Windows, but no in-house coded applications.
Okay, great. Some questions about, can you push out free applications on Systems Manager? How does that work? What if you have volume purchase codes? So really quickly, let me just show you what this looks like. If you wanted to, so again, the way this works, you enroll your devices. You can group them in different ways, teacher iPads versus student iPads if you'd like, with profiles. And then what you do if you want to push out applications is you come to this page, and you are able to, if you want, add homemade, I should say, iOS apps, so private iOS applications, we do support that. Or if you have anything that would be available in the iTunes Store or sort of Google Marketplace, you can look for it that way. So literally it's as easy as saying, okay, I'd like to add a new app. Which application do I want? I don't know. This is important. We're going to search for this one, and boom, I totally want Angry Birds Star Wars, because that is just going to be amazing. So what I do, it's a paid app. I hit add. Now, if it was a free app, it would just say free, for example, and you still hit add. It's the same process. And what happens is right away, I have the ability to restrict this app to certain groups of devices depending on how I've tagged them, how I've named them. So, perhaps I could say, groups with any of these particular tags. And these are the ones that are predefined. So, maybe I just want recently added devices to get Angry Birds Star Wars. And here's where I say, okay, here's my purchase method. So if I have a VPP code, very easy, I can type that in here. Literally, it'll just say save changes. Now, there's no matching devices, so right now it doesn't look like we have anything that has the recently tagged code on it, or tag on it, I should say. But this is a great little view down here because it's showing you which devices this will be applied to. So, where I hit save right now, Angry Birds would be pushed out to these devices. And basically the way that is it pops up on the device screen as please install this app. You hit install, and pretty quickly you get the application. So that's how that works. It's a great question, and I'll be right back. And so I guess a question for you, Phil and John, the question is, do our friends push applications through the access points by setting rules and policies? So I guess, if you are applying applications, is it just through Systems Manager, or is there a way that you're doing that, maybe using Active Directory and doing that through your access points?
We are currently just pushing apps through Systems Manager to various groups of iPads that we have throughout the district, be it a cart or a classroom set or a group of teacher iPads that span different buildings. But we tag a lot of different groups and then deploy apps accordingly.
Mm-hmm. We have another great question about if Cisco Meraki equipment is interoperable with legacy gear, or I'm guessing the corollary is non-Meraki gear. So the answer to that is yes. I mean, we're all standards based, so you can deploy just a layer of access points from Meraki, or just some switches, or just a security appliance if you want, or intermingle your devices with non-Meraki peers. The caveat is you always have to manage the Meraki equipment through our dashboard, and you can't manage non-Meraki equipment through our dashboard. So you might have visibility if you just have a layer of our switches. You might have visibility into the non-Meraki switches. You'll see throughput statistics and application usage and things like that, but you can't log in and manage an Aruba access point through the Meraki dashboard. So the caveat is simply you're going to have a couple of different interfaces to log into to manage your gear, but we do have a lot of folks who only have a couple of our devices, or maybe just one layer, a wired layer or wireless layer of Meraki access points.
We actually have a multi-vendor district. We have HP, Cisco Traditional. We used to have 3Com and Meraki all together, and it all operated just fine in that multi-vendor environment.
Great. And then the last question, I think, because we are at the top of the hour. So the last question is, do we support, I think it's a question on wireless, do we have 2.4 and 5 gigahertz, or what's the difference between the two? So just really quickly, we have a range of 11N access points. Some of those are dual radio. The ones that are dual radio do support 2.4 and 5 gigahertz radios. We also have a indoor 11 AC model, so that also has a 2.4 and 5 gigahertz radio, but it also comes with a third radio, sort of a blended radio that dual band, but is only there for sort of wireless intrusion prevention. So it's on all the time. You don't have to necessarily disassociate clients to scan the environment for rogue APs and things like that. But of course, the 2.4 gigahertz radio is good for devices that are slower or only operate on that. If they're a little bit further away from the access point, they might pick that one up. 5 gigahertz, of course, is faster, and newer devices support that. So, all right, we are out of time, but thank you guys so much. If you asked a question and it didn't get answered, have no fear. We've captured those. We will be forwarding those to your Cisco Meraki rep, so someone should be reaching out to you with an answer. But again, I encourage you to check out all of our webinars on the various product lines that you're interested in, and hope to see you again at a future session. Phil and John, thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate it.